Someday my prince will come is a timeless wish, treasured at any age.
He was going to be her superhero.
From the first moment their eyes met, she was completely carried away by him.
Especially after life's been relentlessly cruel.
When she was just 3 years old, her mother was murdered.
His mother did pass away when he was a baby.
Their connection was driven by pain.
When a storybook romance collides with the harshness of reality.
The chemistry was good, but I don't know what took a turn. It just was a lot of lies,
A young girl's dream can transform into a community's waking nightmare.
All the law enforcement surrounding them, her and her children, at gunpoint.
I will kill everyone here because I have nothing to lose.
Gonzales, Louisiana, one of a string of small towns along the I-10 corridor connecting the state to East Texas.
Gonzales, Louisiana is about 20 minutes outside of Baton Rouge. It's about 50 miles from New Orleans. It's a small community. They have an outlet mall that's there, a couple of restaurants, but it's not really big.
They have a little crime every now and then, but it's actually peaceful.
But on July 27, 2017, that peace is shaken.
But the officers want to know, are the bank robbers or bank robber inside as well? They assess the scene.
Police may even have a hostage crisis on their hands.
In a town the size of Gonzales, the ripples from a robbery of one of the town's 2 banks could affect nearly anyone.
Katrina Griffin is a single mother in her 20s. She is not a career criminal, and she's not even a customer of the bank.
Katrina Griffin was raised by her grandparents and grew up in really challenging circumstances.
When Katrina was 3 years old, her mother was murdered.
In the household was Katrina, her cousins, her grandmother, and her grandfather, and there just simply wasn't always enough.
Other than her children.
Katrina had pretty mixed luck when it came to men, and the father of her children was not in the picture. And in a small town like Gonzales, your dating pool can go dry pretty quickly.
Encountering guys online was easy, and you didn't have to go out and spend money that you didn't have to get to know someone at first.
But her first few online encounters proved less than promising. But then, a fresh new voice slid into Katrina's DMs. The doors of the Regent's Bank slowly open, and the frightened staff and customers cautiously come out of hiding.
When first responders arrived, the assailant was already gone.
But the bank manager's statement to the arriving officer revealed the gravity of the situation, and the police need to move fast.
It was a lone robber, one who was both determined and dangerous. What he told the teller made it very clear to everyone that he was willing to strike again.
On July 27, 2017, in the quiet small town of Gonzales, Louisiana, a local bank became the target of a bold robbery by a lone assailant.
The silent alarm was tripped and the authorities were notified, but not before making off with the bank teller's drawer of cash.
First responders trying to get to this bank, wondering what was going on.
Gonzales, Louisiana police were the first to arrive, but they were soon joined by Louisiana Criminal Investigation Bureau agents and federal agents from Baton Rouge.
The FBI, the CIB, they all arrived.
The FBI, they're always involved with bank robberies. That's one of their mandates. The federal government has an interest in ensuring security of the banks. People feel comfortable that their money is safe because we don't want runs on banks or whatever.
The bank's own in-house investigative unit quickly confirmed that the robber got away with over $5,000 from a single cash drawer.
While members of the quickly assembled task force begin collecting physical evidence, other investigators sit down with the teller who dealt with the robber directly.
The teller says that while she was taking customers at her booth, a man stepped up to her and handed her a note.
It said, "Give me all your money or I will kill everyone in here because I have nothing to lose," which is pretty threatening.
He also said it out loud to her in a very menacing, low voice.
I can only imagine in that teller's shoes that I would feel numb, probably shocked, in fear, thinking about my family. My whole life just flashed before me when he said, "I have nothing to lose."
The teller had the presence of mind to follow the bank's robbery protocols.
Banks have multiple systems in place to thwart robberies. They keep them secret from the public, but they are constantly changing and fine-tuning them.
This bank had a system in place if a teller opened the second cash drawer underneath the first one, while the top drawer was open, it would set off a silent alarm and other security measures.
But, the teller says, the robber was simply too fast for her.
Before the teller could hit the button, he fled the scene quickly.
The teller provides investigators with a physical description of the man.
It was a black male, about 5'10", weighing 150 pounds, tan pants on, and a flat bill Chicago emblem hat.
Gonzales police quickly circulate the description via dispatch.
Local police can get lucky in the immediate aftermath of a crime like this. A nervous robber may run a red light or stop for gas, and a sharp-eyed officer with a description is able to spot him.
At the same time, police examine the bank's other security measures.
They were able to look at camera footage.
What they got was blurry still shots of the man that the teller described. But you couldn't make out his face, and there was nothing unusual about him from that distance.
Police release stills of the man to the media, and the bank's in-house security team circulates the same pictures to other area branches.
Gonzales Police Department moved very fast to get the information out about this male that was out on the loose.
In the meantime, investigators believe that one of the still pictures reveals something that might pay off.
In one of the shots, you could see the robber leaning his arm and his hand on the counter. It looks as if he may have made contact with his bare skin. So in addition to testing for fingerprints, crime scene techs collected what they hoped would yield DNA evidence.
DNA evidence typically takes weeks to be processed. The suspect needs to already be in the system. Despite this, investigators are leaving no stone unturned.
When police inquire about the bank's exterior camera array, they get more bad news.
It turns out that this bank, for whatever reason, does not have CCTV cameras outside.
So far, it seems as if the robber planned everything perfectly.
Some of the detectives even started to wonder, could this have been an inside job? Whoever this guy is playing the game like he know all the rules.
After speaking to witnesses on the scene, police finally catch a break.
They were able to interview some of the people who were there about what just happened. It was reported a white Toyota Camry with tinted windows and rims fled the scene.
Investigators use Louisiana's license plate recognition system to track down the white Camry.
By just putting in the Camry's description and the time of day, investigators stand a pretty good chance of spotting a car as it left the scene.
But the LPR database comes up empty for a car fitting the customer's description.
So law enforcement are coming up to a dead end, but it's because they're on the wrong track. They don't have all the right information.
Then, detectives receive information that could prove to be a major breakthrough in the case.
The bank security officer gets the email from the other bank branch, responding to the other teller's photos.
An employee at a different bank gave the description of a male that fit the same description of the robber that was at Regions National Bank.
And that's not all.
Unlike the airline highway branch, this crosstown branch the man visited prior to the robbery has surveillance camera coverage outside.
The email contains a clear photo of the robber getting into a white van and leaving. It's a huge step forward.
But this breakthrough also presented detectives with yet another potentially troubling issue.
The fact that he was seen casing another bank the day before makes it highly likely that he's going to strike again, potentially with more serious consequences.
Federal criminal statutes for bank robberies are strong as a federal crime. The federal government has an interest in ensuring security of the banks, right? That's why we have the FDIC and all these other measures for people to feel comfortable that their money is safe, because we don't want runs on banks or whatever. So for all those reasons, this is a federal charge.
Gonzales PD, the Louisiana State CIB, and Baton Rouge Field Office FBI are on the hunt for a man who threatened to kill everyone in a local bank before getting away with over $5,000.
So everybody is on trying to figure out who this person is. We have helicopters out, flying around looking for this person, looking for through camera footages, looking at the fingerprints that they got.
And while law enforcement seeks answers, word of the crime quickly spreads via social media.
A bank robbery like this might have been front page news a decade ago. But now, local crime usually takes the back seat.
Now, after a few frustrating false leads, investigators appear to be moving in the right direction.
An employee at another bank branch recognized the man in a surveillance photo that was taken at the robbery.
The Crosstown branch's security system also got a clear shot of the same man getting into a white van.
Investigators race to the second bank. Of these clearer photos gets a fast response.
So from all the pictures that was out on social media and the news, an anonymous tip came in and reported that they knew who this person was.
So, based on the police reporting, tips came through on Crime Stoppers that identified Floyd Hose.
Detectives pull Floyd Hose's record and quickly realize they're on the right track.
Floyd Hose, 32 years old, many priors, recently got out of prison for evading arrest.
We talk about a long rap sheet like 20 years.
And the follow-ups police have with witnesses confirm it.
The detective did a photo lineup and shared it with the teller at Regions National Bank, and she was able to identify Floyd Hose because of the way his eyes were small and they were close together.
Arrest warrant in hand, Gonzales police attempt to confront Floyd Hose at his home.
They found Floyd Hose's last address and they went to where they thought he lived, but he did not live there anymore.
But only moments later, sharp-eyed detectives catch another break.
As they perused through the neighborhood, they did find the white van.
Police surveil the van, and the van slowly pulls out of the driveway.
The police began to trail the van and ended up pulling the van over to find out who was in the van and who did it belong to. The lady driving the van was Loistine Hernandez.
My mom is out driving in Gonzales and she gets pulled over and they asked her to step out the car and she asked them for what. And he was like, "We think your vehicle been involved in a robbery, a bank robbery." She was like, "A bank robbery?"
Police instruct Loistine Hernandez to accompany them for an interview. At Gonzales Police Headquarters, Loistine voluntarily explains how her white van wound up being Floyd Hose's getaway car.
Loistine's daughter, Shaquila Hernandez, had been in a long-term relationship with Floyd Hose.
She tells the detective that Floyd and her daughter are no longer together.
Floyd Hose's frequent trips to jail made him a marginal part of Shaquila's life and the lives of the children they had together until a few days before the robbery.
I got a phone call from my mother that day. She like, "Keila, you won't believe who came up knocking on my door today." And I'm like, "Who?" "Girl, Floyd Hose." I said, "What?"
Neither Loistine, Shaquila, nor Floyd's children had heard from him in months.
He never really was in their lives. Like, if he get out of jail, he'll pop up and see him or whatever. Not at my home, you know. But they don't have a relationship though. They really don't have a good relationship because of the fact that he's been in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. She was like, he said he been out for like a week. And I asked him, oh, you been out for a week and you finally want to come and try to see your kids, you know? So he came and saw the kids.
Lowenstein tells police that her daughter was leery of letting Floyd back into their lives, but that she felt differently.
She has a good heart. She believed in second chances, third chances, fourth chances.
And according to Lowenstein, Floyd was finally going to make good after years of neglecting his two sons.
He told my mama he had $40,000. And so my mama did, oh, tell Keela she should have about 10 grand coming to her child support card. I'm like, 40,000? I'm like, Mama, he just really got out of jail, so where he's receiving a check from of this amount? She was like, I don't know, but this is what he's telling me. I was like, oh, okay.
All Floyd Hose asked of Lowenstein was one small favor in return.
Floyd Hose then innocently asked his ex's mother to drive him to the bank, and he told her that it would not take long.
The favor turned out to be much more significant than she realized.
She didn't know it yet, but Lowenstein Hernandez was about to become a getaway driver.
An anonymous tip has revealed the identity of the lone suspect who threatened to kill everyone in a Gonzales, Louisiana bank before fleeing with over $5,000 in cash.
Crime Stoppers received a tip that a published bank security photo from the robbery was of a man named Floyd Hose.
Now, police have a cooperating witness who freely admits driving 32-year-old Floyd Hose to and from the bank.
Lowenstein Hernandez, Floyd Hose's ex-mother-in-law, took Floyd to the robbery in her van.
But Lowenstein scoffs at the suggestion that she knowingly had anything to do with the crime.
My mother definitely wasn't involved in none of this. No, nobody in the Hernandez family was involved with that bank robbery. This was something that Floyd Hose chose to do.
Lowenstein tells police that Floyd Hose hustled her the same as he hustled everyone in his life.
My mother wouldn't have put herself in that predicament. No, no indeed. I'm telling you, he's a con artist. Like, that's him. That's him.
So Floyd told her that he was coming into some money from an inheritance.
He was telling the same inheritance story to multiple people, including his new girlfriend.
But before he could make good on years of unpaid child support, Floyd needed to go to the bank to deposit his supposed inheritance.
Lowenstein Hernandez had agreed to take Floyd to the bank.
When arriving at the bank, a few minutes later, Floyd returned to the van.
She was like, Floyd told me that he deposited a check in the bank for like 40 grand.
The next day, Floyd asked Lowenstein to give him a ride back to the bank.
This time, they made the trip with a full van.
Lowenstein has her 5 grandkids in the van with her as they go to the banks.
Once again, Floyd went inside the bank alone.
He goes in and comes right back out and says they're too busy.
So that's why he didn't make his move then. So that's why when he went to the second bank, he made his way with that.
Floyd asked Lowenstein to go by the Airline Highway Bank branch, and again, he went in and came out moments later.
But when he returned this time, he asked to go to Walmart, GameStop, all these different places shopping for the kids, buying all kind of things, and even took her out to lunch.
He got the kids school supplies, clothes, shoes, everything.
She does not know at this point that a robbery had just occurred.
Lowenstein tells police the last she heard, Floyd was on a bus to Lake Charles, Louisiana. She agrees to let police search her home.
They find all the things they had been looking for, the tan pants, the hat with the emblem on it. They found shopping bags. They found receipts where he had been out and about just shopping.
They asked him, did he buy anything for the kids? She said, yeah, you know, they confiscated all of that from her house and everything. So we had to go back out and re-school shopping, you know, like, dude, why would you do that?
Police also discovered deposit slips from both banks, along with Floyd Hose's other cast-off. Detectives now asked Shaquila Hernandez to come in for an interview.
They just questioned me about him and, you know, Did he give me any money and all this?
Investigators are pressing hard for answers. But Shaquila isn't able to give them any information because she doesn't know anything. She's stunned that her mom is now caught up in this and her kids were in the van.
While Shaquila knows nothing about any robbery, she has little doubt that Floyd was capable of being behind the bank heist.
But she tells police that it wasn't always like that.
We was together for like almost 6 years. He used to make sure I was happy, let me be myself. We would always have a good time. Just, you know, he went left. It was just with the lies to cheat, not being a provider. He basically just loved the streets. The very first time he got locked up when we were together with my child, I want to say it was a couple of months at first, but he did do some time. I was still, sticking with him, still trying to believe in him. But things still just wasn't right. Like, it wasn't. He was constantly, in and out of jail. I'm basically with a child by myself. My mother and father, they helping me out, or his sister helping me out with, my firstborn and stuff. Every time he got out, he was out for a little bit, then he back in. Then I ended up getting pregnant again, with my second child. He wasn't there for that birth at all. So it was just, he really wasn't a father, I'ma just be honest. When we were dating, my mother was a supervisor and she got him on, and that didn't work neither. He wanted to hide out and everything, and I guess he felt like, because that's his mother-in-law, he can do that.
Throughout their time together, Shaquila struggled to overlook Floyd's constant infidelity.
Well, one time, his friend guy actually told me when we were living together, and he was telling me how he would meet up with a chick and everything, like when I leave, And at first I thought it was a lie, because you know how, some guys can be like, they'll really be lying because they trying to hit on you. But it was to come to find out it wasn't a lie. It wasn't a lie. It was the truth. One morning I woke up and I was like, you know what? God, I don't want to do this no more. And that's just how it went. Told him I'm done with it, and I ain't never looked back at it.
Detectives receive a tip from a known associate of Floyd Hose as to a possible motive for Floyd's quick exit to Lake Charles.
Floyd left the afternoon of the robbery and went to Lake Charles, Louisiana, where he had an on and off relationship with Katrina Griffin.
Police do a background check on 28-year-old Katrina Griffin.
When law enforcement looked at Katrina's background, they did not find any kind of illegal information, but when they took a look at her social media, it was very interesting.
What investigators see on Katrina Griffin's Facebook page suggested that they now need to find two people, not one.
Katrina was posting pictures of her and Floyd, along with money.
The precise words Katrina chooses to describe her and Floyd are particularly alarming.
She was also posting about and called themselves the modern-day Bonnie and Clyde. By using Bonnie and Clyde, Katrina was trying to let everyone know that, hey, me and my man are in this together. He is my ride or die.
People know the story of Bonnie and Clyde, famous robbers, and it's a kind of a love story, really. And so for people who were involved in a bank robbery to call themselves something close to that name, then obviously it's just going to stand out right away. It's kind of brazen, honestly. It's almost like you're begging for attention.
And as police work to piece together the details of the robbery, they wonder if he was genuinely a lone suspect or if Katrina was involved in the crime.
Now police are wondering if the airline highway robbery was a one-off or only the beginning.
On July 30th, 2017, 3 days after the robbery, an ad hoc task force comprising Gonzales, Louisiana, Louisiana State CIB, and local FBI agents are determined to catch bank robber Floyd Hose and the woman they believe to be his accomplice, Katrina Griffin.
Katrina's social media posts refer to them as Bonnie and Clyde.
They attributed it to her being a part of the robbery and definitely off of the movie Bonnie and Clyde.
Floyd Hose had already told the bank teller that he robbed that he was willing to kill everyone in the bank. And so police believed that he was dangerous.
Floyd Hose was last seen boarding a bus for Lake Charles, Louisiana. Gonzales PD alerts the U.S. Marshal's Office in Lake Charles that they're seeking the couple and that they should be presumed armed and dangerous.
It's not uncommon for the U.S. Marshal's Office to get involved, particularly if it's a high-profile situation or there's some immediate danger, that will get involved and assist in the capture.
Investigators ID'd Floyd Hose from a Crime Stoppers tip. Now they're hoping that another tip will reveal where Floyd and Katrina are.
Then, police get a tip-off from the most reliable source possible, Katrina herself.
She posted videos of them at the hotel and basically called out where they were.
Because of the social media posts, Katrina and Floyd was found from posting where they were staying at in Lake Charles.
Heavily armed police swiftly take Katrina and Floyd into custody.
Katrina was arrested while her children were watching what was going on. The children didn't know where their mama was going, didn't know what they were going to be.
Gonzales detectives up a bank. She didn't doubt that he was capable of it. When Katrina Griffin initially encountered Floyd Hose,
Children to have Ascension Parish. Floyd was charged with first-degree robbery along with endangering 5 children.
The fact that he made this threat with this letter raised the charge to first-degree robbery.
Katrina was charged with first-degree robbery after the fact.
authorities are confident in their arrests, but the real question is, can they prove Katrina's involvement in court?
People often brag or show off on social media to seek validation, shape their identities, or connect with others. This behavior reflects a desire for affirmation and recognition in a digital world, allowing them to showcase the positive aspects of their lives and create an image of happiness and fulfillment.
In May 2022, the Bonnie and Clyde bank robber Floyd Hose has been awaiting trial on robbery and child endangerment charges for nearly 5 years.
The fact that Floyd Hose threatened to kill an entire bank full of people and then did it while 5 minors were in the car, driven unknowingly by his ex-mother-in-law, put bail totally out of reach.
Floyd Hose's alleged accomplice, Katrina Griffin, was released from custody not long after their 2017 arrest.
Katrina was in jail for 2 months, but released because there was no evidence to support the charges.
Ascension Parish prosecutors announce they've reached a plea agreement with Floyd Hose's attorney.
Well, he was sitting in jail waiting for processing his case, and he took a plea, and he basically got out right after that.
Floyd Hose knew the rules and he knew the system. He watched the calendar, and when the time came, he was ready to play ball. He managed to get himself released with time served.
So it's what they call DA time. So at some point, people just take a plea, because why am I going to go to trial and risk more time if I take a plea and just get out?
He'd been in and out of custody enough times to know what his options were, and he went with it.
Floyd Hose's carefully maneuvered freedom doesn't last long.
He committed another bank robbery, I think 7 months after he got out.
This time, Floyd Hose walked into a bank in Baton Rouge and walked out with close to 10 grand.
Baton Rouge authorities have Floyd Hose in custody again within hours.
He just loved being in that gang too much.
He got a pretty significant sentence, I think 70 months.
The judge gave him 70 months, 3 years of supervised release, and a hell of a tongue lashing for terrorizing a bank full of innocent people.
So he obviously must not have fully taken in the lessons of his first robbery.
For Katrina Griffin, her education is complete.
A person that's watching this story about Katrina should think about insecurities, should think about depression, should think about trauma or hurt or being abandoned or rejected, and how pain helps you to make a bad choice and bad decisions in life.
What I want them to learn is just pay attention to patterns, you know. Patterns, body language, everything. All it is gonna tell you the truth about somebody, like it is, you know. That's about it.
I think for Katrina to do whatever she needed to do to keep her man, she had to just not have any self-esteem about herself because she tolerated anything. She did whatever it took. When I think about that, I think of a child that was lost before she even got with him because of the way she carried herself with different men, and he came in as a man that was in sheep clothing. And she believed everything he said. She didn't dig for anything. She didn't want anything out of him. Was any expectations.
Love is blind. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, but you can still pay attention to patterns, though. You know how you can see things, but you don't want to believe it.
I think men take advantage of women who do not have expectations. But then I wonder for Floyd, did he even know what expectations were? With two broke people that have been traumatized and lived a certain way, may not even know what expectations are, may not have anyone to display them in their life.
He's saying he don't have nothing to lose when he going in the bank to rob the bank with the letters and all that. He don't have nothing to lose. You know, like that's crazy. Love is an emotional thing. So like, once you have your feelings involved, like you really can't focus on, you know, your main priorities. So, you know, you just gotta take people as who they are. They show you who they are the first time. I just feel like that's just who they is.
Be careful what you wish for, they say. In an online dream world filled with avatars and fantasy relationships, nearly any desire feels within reach. But what appears to be an answered prayer in the glow of a screen can, under the harsh light of day, turn into a curse.
Every time Jonte got into anything, Two-Face, heavy, call my mama. I wasn't there. And that's like my biggest regret, that I wasn't there for him.
He saw the vehicle pull up. He instantly hears gunfire. Just shooting.
When you're in a relationship that is hostile and volatile and unpredictable and unsafe, you do reach a breaking point.
People do act different ways. People may be frightened, people may be angry.
It's not about love anymore. It's about property. What's mine?
17 shell casings tell a story within itself, right? It says someone wanted someone dead.
August 27th, 2017. Around 1:30 a.m., police in Detroit, Michigan respond to the scene of a terrifying car accident.
A 911 call was placed because a vehicle had crashed into a church. One of the walls in the parking lot, a vehicle had driven through the wall of the parking lot, and they believe they saw a person inside the vehicle.
Responders get to the scene, and they notice a 20-something-year-old man slumped over, barely breathing.
At those hours, it's typically pretty quiet. The person was driving eastbound on Mack Avenue. It looks like they lost control around this location. You can see the tires in the grass. He went through a 3-foot high brick wall, and then his vehicle came to a rest in a parking lot.
Upon closer inspection, officers spot evidence of a reason for the crash.
They notice bullet holes on the driver's side of the vehicle, as well as blood dripping from the man's body.
EMS now arrives and discovers that the person is shot. There's a chest wound. Now it's turning into a different investigation.
First responders are able to identify him as 29-year-old Jonte Brooks. They jump into action and they rush him to the hospital because they try to save this man's life.
Jonte Maurice Lewis Brooks was born in 1988. His mother, Teresa Brooks, had him when she was little more than a child herself.
Jonte is my firstborn. I was really happy when he first got home, and my mom took care of him because I was just 17. So she took care of us together, you know.
Jonte grew up in a loving, close-knit family. He had 3 brothers, 1 sister. Unfortunately, Jonte's father was not in the picture, so he took it upon himself at a very early age to be the man of the... Having a father in his life, Jonte took the role of being a father very seriously, so he was a very active dad.
Although they never married, the couple went on to have 4 more children together, and Jonte worked hard to support them.
Jonte eventually figured out that he thrived working with his hands and landed a career in landscaping. He took a lot of pride in his work and creating beautiful landscapes for all of his clients.
Settling down, in the fall of 2016, Jonte decided to take another chance on love with 26-year-old Mignetta Yeager.
Mignetta actually pursued Jonte, and he found this really appealing because she would take the initiative. And so she would take him out on dates, pick him up for dates, pay for things, and this was unfamiliar to someone who had to provide for everyone in his life. They had a really happy relationship, always spending time together, going on dates, and just really excited about the future.
He actually thinks that she may potentially be the one, but as in oftentimes in cases like this, you know, there's a hiccup along the way, and the relationship begins to fade, and it falls apart.
By 2017, Jonte had simplified his life, focusing on spending time with his children. But now, he's clinging to life. Detroit police have determined Jonte lost consciousness and crashed into a church after someone shot him. The question is who?
There's no guns in the car, there's no passenger in the vehicle, so obviously somebody from outside the vehicle fired into the car. We try to figure out, one is motive. Was this person an intentional target? Was it an accident?
Witnesses tell police a truck was pursuing Jonte shortly before he crashed.
Several witnesses noticed the white minivan seemed to be trying to get away from the red pickup truck. However, once the white minivan crashed into the church, the red pickup truck fled the scene. They were not able to see the license plate. However, they did notice there were 2 people in the vehicle, a man and a woman.
Unfortunately, none of them saw the shooting.
Officers survey the scene and notice there are no shell casings at the church. They realize the shooting must have occurred somewhere else.
We would call that a 2-part scene. The secondary crime scene would have been where he was found. The original crime scene would be where he was shot.
One theory was that this was possibly a road rage incident, because that's what normally happens if you see one vehicle chasing another down the road.
In that specific area, we haven't responded to too many homicides. There is a little bit of prostitution over there. There's some breaking and entering of automobiles and stolen cars and things of that nature. Now, the investigative wheels are spinning to where this could have happened at.
As officers are surveying the scene, they notice down the street at the gas station, there are multiple cars and blue flashing lights. And they wonder, is this part of the current scene?
In the early morning hours of August 17, 2017, Detroit police begin their investigation into the shooting of 29-year-old Jonte Brooks. Before they've even finished witnesses, they receive some tragic news.
Unfortunately, the paramedics were not able to save his life, and he does die at the hospital. He was killed from a single bullet that went through his right shoulder and went through his lungs.
So now you have a murder investigation. And now, where was he murdered?
Flashing lights from patrol cars at a gas station nearby tip off officers to the possible location.
Coincidentally, there's a crime scene just down the street. Second call had come in for shots fired at the gas station. Officers at the scene were quickly able to determine that the two incidents were connected.
When investigators arrive, they find evidence of a relentless attack. 17 spent shell casings scattered on the ground.
Officers notice all 17 shell casings are the same, so they seemingly come from the same weapon, meaning there's probably just one shooter. After Jonte was shot, he tried to get away. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his injuries, swerved and drove right into the church and crashed.
You have a two-part scene, so we would have to break those two up and then have evidence techs or our crime scene services section document each location.
17 shell casings tell a story within itself, right? It says someone wanted someone dead.
Officers talked to the gas station owner, and he says he then noticed a red pickup truck pull up and a white minivan pulled up right next to it. He heard some arguing and heard some gunshots, about 6 or 7 of them.
The owner tells police that when he ran to the window, he caught a glimpse of the shooter.
The gas station owner noticed it was a young black woman shooting at the white minivan. At this point, the white minivan pulled out and sped off. The woman followed, shooting on foot at the white minivan, then jumped back into the red pickup truck and tried to follow him.
Unfortunately, he's unable to provide a description of the driver or the license plate.
People don't look out the window and expect a homicide to happen and say, I'm documenting it step by step by step. I'm looking at my watch. Okay, it's now. They're not doing that. You know, you're busy doing this. All of a sudden you hear something, you look, and you only capture this much.
Luckily, the gas station has security cameras covering the entire area.
What's better than the witness account is the video at the store, which captures the event in its entirety from start to finish.
Officers review the surveillance footage, and they notice an older black man driving the vehicle and a young black woman in the passenger seat. She's on her phone, and she seems very animated as she's talking. At this point, a white minivan pulls up beside them with the window rolled down. They start to argue, and the young lady jumps out of the vehicle and starts shooting at the white minivan.
Based on the video footage, there wasn't any delay, there was no physical contact, there wasn't any of that.
The video provides investigators with enough information to identify the driver.
Not only does the surveillance footage show the shooting happening, it also reveals the license plate of the vehicle. They're able to tell the vehicle belongs to 44-year-old LeBaron Borum. The officers check his DMV photo, and they notice there is a resemblance to the person in the surveillance video. The officers also realize he lives in the neighborhood of the gas station.
From that, we did surveillance and were able to locate the vehicle parked in the driveway. And from there, we were able to locate and eventually interview the owner of that red pickup.
Ultimately, police arrive at LeBaron's door, and they have questions for him.
At this point, he's the one that ultimately gets to decide what role he wants to play in this investigation. In these investigations, typically when you have multiple defendants, whether it's a bank robbery with 4 or 5 defendants or a homicide with 3 or 4 defendants, typically the first person that comes to the table to talk to the prosecutors will get the best outcome.
And he spills it all. It ends up being a very wild night and a wild scene.
Detroit police are questioning 44-year-old LeBaron Borum, one of two suspects identified at the scene of Jonte Brooks' murder. According to LeBaron, he was simply in the wrong place at the wrong...
He says he was strictly trying to be a good Samaritan, and he just got caught up in a very bad situation.
LeBaron says it began with an argument between two strangers on his front lawn.
LeBaron tells the officers his son ran into the house and told him, "Dad, there's a van that ran up onto our yard." At this point, LeBaron went outside to see what was going on.
What he says is that he notices there's a female and a male, they're arguing, there's some type of altercation going on. Ultimately, he says the male gets into the vehicle, and it appears that he's about to run the female over. She ultimately gets out of the way, and he drives on in this white van.
LeBaron tells the officers he does recognize the lady from the neighborhood. It is 27-year-old Minietta Yeager.
He knew the man arguing with Minietta as well. It was her ex-boyfriend, Jonte Brooks.
What he stated was that he was aware that Miss Yeager and Mr. Brooks were in a tumultuous type of relationship.
By the time LeBaron came to her aid, Jonte had already driven away.
He went to help Miss Yeager, thinking that this was a woman in distress. And she ultimately says, "Hey, yes, can you go after this white van? That's my mother's van. I gotta get it back. I'm concerned. My boyfriend just attacked me and he took the van." He had no clue that she had a gun on her. So he ultimately lets Miss Yeager into his vehicle, and they drive off looking for this white minivan.
While they were chasing Jonte, Minietta called police to report the van stolen. Then she called Jonte.
Miss Yeager said her plan was to try to keep Jonte on the phone as long as possible so the police can get to him and he could be arrested.
There's some heated words being said back and forth. Ultimately, he also hears that they agreed to meet up on the east side of Detroit at a gas station in the area of Van Dyke and Warren Avenue. And this would have been around 1 o'clock in the morning on August 27th. When they get to the gas station, there's no Jonte. And so, she instantly calls Jonte on her phone. She argues with him, "Why didn't you show up?" Well, apparently he did show up because he says that he noticed that she was in a vehicle with another man. He's not too happy about that, according to her, and he has choice words. She indicates to LeBaron that he ultimately makes a threat towards her, saying he's gonna kill them.
At this point, LeBaron was reconsidering his decision to get involved, but he ultimately agreed to drive to another gas station.
LeBaron tells the officers Jonte pulled up about a minute later, but then they started arguing because he was highly upset.
He says something to apparently push her buttons. She immediately gets out the vehicle and pulls out a weapon. And she starts to fire into the vehicle that Jonte is in.
Mr. Brooks, without hesitation, just hit the gas and took off. In the course of the shots being fired at the vehicle, Mr. Brooks was shot.
But the harrowing encounter wasn't over yet.
At this point, LeBaron is terrified. He didn't know what just happened. He wanted to just get out of there. However, Ms. Yeager jumped back into the vehicle and told him to just drive.
As Jonte is attempting to get away, he's obviously shot and he's obviously hurt because he then pulls into the lot of a church which is nearby on Mack Avenue, and at that point collapses. LeBaron seeing this and Miss Yeager seeing this as they're chasing him, they then decide to pull off and keep going. What LeBaron indicates to the police is that he noticed some lights behind him, and he freaks out.
He saw the police coming, and he did not want to be a part of that at all.
He decides to turn down a side street. He ultimately makes his way back home. And strangely enough, he says that Miss Yeager just gets out the vehicle and walks back home. Doesn't say a single word. And from that point, he says he doesn't hear from her ever again. In fact, he doesn't hear anything else until police arrive at his door.
Investigators believe LeBaron is telling the truth. Unfortunately, his actions still make him an accessory to murder.
I don't know if Miss Yeager was intentionally trying to kill Mr. Brooks, but her reckless display of firing a weapon and her disregard for life or anything, the outcome was ultimately homicide. So here we are.
He is ultimately charged as an accessory after the fact. And police charged him because he helped her flee the scene. And then he doesn't immediately go to police.
Hours after the murder of Detroit native Johntay Brooks, investigators are searching for the woman accused of shooting him. Johntay's ex-girlfriend, Minyetta Yeager. They also reach out to Johntay's loved ones to notify them of his death.
Lost it. I lost it.
After recovering from the initial shock, Johntay's family tells police they feared something like this might eventually happen.
What we had learned through the investigation was it was a tumultuous relationship.
So while things started out great in the beginning for Johntay, the transition happened when things got a little more hostile in the relationship. So Miss Yeager started calling him a lot, stalking him, accusing him of being with other women, popping up unannounced at his family's house.
I always heard her in my home, but I never cared to meet her or anything because she was loud, Every time she came to my house, she was always loud. And I just told him that, she can't come over no more because she's very disrespectful. And he said, okay.
When partners start showing that behavior of calling him a lot, accusing him of being with other women, at first we take that as a sign of, they like me, they're crazy about me. That behavior tends to get ignored a lot until it's very problematic, right? But at that point, it's a pattern and you find yourself stuck in a relationship, right? That's unhealthy.
I know there was a lot of 911 calls back and forth for the domestic situations between her and him. So there was definitely, from a long-term perspective, there was a buildup.
Johntay's loved ones became even more concerned when they discovered Minyetta's family had a history of violence.
Unfortunately, Minyetta was no stranger to this type of violence. Her sister years prior had murdered her ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend.
I told my son, I said, Johntay, Minyetta is dangerous. Stay away. He's so young. He said, okay, I know, Mom, I know. But he didn't.
In August 2017, 2 weeks before Johntay's murder, the family says he and Minyetta got into a heated argument.
Miss Yeager was very erratic and emotional at this time. Johntay's mother showed the police officers her ring camera. And it shows Mrs. Yeager standing outside her house, banging on the door, yelling for Johntay to come out. He refuses to come out. However, finally, he does come to the door.
They got into it. She bust out all my windows in my front of my house. And then she also bust out the window in my car.
But despite Minyetta's alleged violent outburst, Johntay refused to get police involved.
In a case where you have the male that's the victim, what we oftentimes see is that they don't go to authorities for numerous reasons. One is they're not believed. Those type of cases, unfortunately, aren't taken seriously. And also, it's that male stigma, right? You want to be tough and to go to police or to go to friends or loved ones and say, hey, I'm being abused by this female. Well, takes a little way away from your masculinity. So men feel a little ashamed. You rather walk away. And that's what Johntay was doing here.
Crazy.
Instead, he finally decided to break up with her.
August 27th, that's the day he got killed. But that Friday before, I talked to him, and he was like, Mom, I see what everybody is saying. I gotta get away from this girl. I said, Jonte, I agree. He said, I got to get away.
When you're in a relationship that is hostile and volatile and unpredictable and unsafe, you do reach a breaking point, and you don't want to hear from that person anymore. You cut them off completely, and a lot of times that is not well received.
The night before he died, Jonte agreed to meet up with Mignetta one last time.
What we know is that on August 26th, Jonte is contacted by Miss Yeager, and she's insistent. She wants to meet with him. She wants to talk. He's trying to tell her, no, it's over. I'm moving on. There's nothing else, I need to talk about. And she wants to meet him at his aunt's house, which is not far from where she lives.
Mignetta was always bribing him with money and gifts. Even if he says no, she will still come around. If he don't react the way that she want him to react, she would sit in the driveway and just blow on the horn, just lay on the horn. So this particular night, she did this. Jonte didn't want no problems, because this was my sister's house. And she was beating on the door at first. My sister came to the door and told her that Jonte is asleep. So she go back to the car and just lays on the horn at my sister's home. Jonte came outside and, he went with her.
Just a few hours later, Jonte was dead. And now, investigators can't find Mignetta anywhere.
They've been cabin sitting in the neighborhood. They put a bolo out. At this point, they even go to the news media because they cannot find her anywhere.
This is on 11 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news, and ultimately someone does see and does give information. It's her, it's Miss Yeager herself.
Less than 24 hours after fatally shooting her ex-boyfriend, Jonte Brooks, Mignetta Yeager turns herself in to Detroit police.
She was transported to our holding facility, which is the Detroit Detention Center, and I went and interviewed her there. But I believe that she had an opportunity to speak with a lawyer before she turned herself in, so our interview was very short.
The story Mignetta tells police is quite different from the one they've heard so far. Mignetta claims she's the one who ended the relationship with Jonte, not the other way around.
She says she was abused by Jonte for months now. And at this point, she went to the mother's house because she finally had the courage to break up with him. She says that once she told him that she wanted to break up, he went crazy.
According to Mignetta, Jonte is the abuser in the relationship. And on this night, she says that he pulled her out of the van, beat her up, even beat her with a pistol at one point.
She finally was able to get away and run away from him. But no, he took the van and tried to run her over. At this point, LeBaron was there, and she saw him, and he offered to help.
Mignetta says she asked LeBaron to drive her to the gas station, intending to get her van back from Jonte. As she got out of LeBaron's truck, he handed her a gun to protect herself.
She says, in fact, that it was LeBaron who had the weapon and that she was simply there to just talk to Jonte. But she takes the weapon. She's in fear. She's in natural fear. She doesn't know what Jonte's gonna do. She says ultimately, out of self-defense, she shoots at Jonte. And she probably shot once or twice, 2 or 3 times at most. But then she tells police that her memory is foggy about the exact details.
Investigators are skeptical of her claims.
But it didn't make much sense because, she says that she was abused and he was the abuser, but yet she's pursuing him. There's evidence that shows that she's appeared at his mother's house on a couple of occasions and, threw a brick through the mother's windshield, tried to attack him when he opened the door to have a conversation. She says she shot 2 or 3 times at most, but we know from the physical evidence that there were 17 shell casings there at the gas station.
The police had a tough job in this situation because on one hand, we have Minyetta, who is reporting abuse, and then on the other hand, they also have contradicting reports where she was the abuser.
In a situation of domestic violence, you'll see signs of abuse. You'll see black eyes, you'll see broken noses, you'll see fat lips and cuts and scars and things of that nature. But in this situation, I don't remember any type of injuries to her. Now, there was a day or two that had passed, so if something healed, I'm sure there's probably some doctors that could argue one way. There's some doctors that could probably argue the other. However, in this situation, I didn't see anything obvious.
I think that people in general expect a battered woman to act and look a certain way, that this person is going to be meek and timid and scared and crying. And in my experience, you don't know how you're going to act. People do act different ways, so we have to investigate.
Minyetta's statement also raises another question.
Ms. Yeager said LeBaron gave her a gun, but LeBaron said Ms. Yeager just brandished the gun. So where did the gun come from?
It's a very important detail because if LeBaron, in fact, did hand her this weapon, well, maybe this is not a first-degree murder case. Maybe this is a second-degree murder case or manslaughter.
When investigators re-interview LeBaron Borum, he says Minyetta is lying.
LeBaron says he doesn't own a gun, does not have one registered to him or anything. The police even search his home and do not find one.
But Minyetta doesn't appear to have the gun either.
In murder cases, oftentimes the defendant, especially when they've had time to flee the scene and head home, they'll discard the weapon, they'll throw it somewhere, they'll hide it someplace, they might pass it on to someone else. Police did search for the weapon but couldn't find it, which is not unusual. But they have enough evidence.
There's a misconception that you need a firearm to prove a homicide occurred or to charge somebody with homicide. That's not true.
The video evidence is pretty damning in and of itself.
On August 30th, 2017, Minyetta Yeager is charged with first-degree murder. At her arraignment, she shows little remorse.
It was like around her birthday, and she told the judge, well, can we get this on because my birthday is coming up, so I want to get out of here. And the judge say, Miss Minyetta, this is a homicide right here. You're not getting out that fast. Disturbed, but he had a nice funeral.
Nearly a year later, in August 2018, his accused killer, Minyetta Yeager, goes on trial.
Ms. Yeager's crux of her defense was that she was the one being abused. She was the only person who could testify to that, so she had to take the stand if that's what she wanted to do. And she wanted to do that, so she took the stand, and it didn't work out very well. Ms. Yeager indicated there were a couple people that tried to help her when he was assaulting her just previous to this homicide. That didn't bear out. These people, they were never found. There were no visible injuries.
Minyetta is a liar. She was saying that he was beating on her. If he was beating on you, why all the time you're at my house? Why I have to always ask my son to keep you away? We couldn't keep you away.
Prosecutors focus on the night of the shooting, arguing the evidence clearly shows Minyetta was the aggressor.
Video evidence was very specific to show that Ms. Yeager went to that gas station with one intention, and one intention only, and that was to seek revenge to Mr. Brooks for taking her vehicle. She didn't get out of the car and flag him down and stop him and say, let's talk, reach her hand out for the exchange of keys. Wheels were still rolling, and she was already out of the neighbor's vehicle and firing at Mr. Brooks. In domestic violence situations and tumultuous relationships, it's not about love anymore. It's about property, what's mine. And I think people ultimately become property to each other as well. You belong to me.
In previous situations, Jonte had kind of acquiesced. This time he was staying true to what he wanted, and he drove off from her, and she did not know how to respond to that, and that led her into a rage.
After a 3-day trial, the jury finds Mignetta Yeager guilty as charged.
We were able to have Ms. Yeager convicted of first-degree murder, and that is mandatory life in prison in the state of Michigan.
And the judge asked her, did she have anything to say to me or the family? She said no. She was looking directly at Dwayna and really smiling, which is evil, pure evil.
LeBaron Borum is also convicted of being an accessory after the fact. He serves less than 2 years in prison.
Whenever you get a guilty verdict on any case, but especially on a homicide, there's a sense of a job well done, that all of your hard work is paid off, and you're especially glad to get that justice for the family. But there's always going to be that sense of loss, and you can never make that family whole.
Everybody tells me that I have to forgive her. I would never forgive her. Never forgive her. This is my firstborn. She took him away from me, but I don't have anything to say to her. People say hate is a strong word. I want to go above hate. I hate her, and God understands my pain. I don't have to forgive her.
If anyone can learn anything from this, it's to make sure that you do report abuse, that you let your loved ones know what's going on, you let others know what's going on. Most importantly, you let the police know.
I wasn't even there for him, and that was hard. I wasn't there. Every time Jonte got into anything, Two-Face, call my mama. Anything this kid had it, call my mama. I wasn't there, and that's like my biggest regret, that I wasn't there for him. And I know he was in pain. I know.
Some couples share an instant bond.
They were hot, they were heavy, and things were incredibly steamy between the two of them.
She was kind of swept off her feet, wanted to wine and dine her and really take care of her.
She had someone who wanted to be an active part of her life.
And that intense connection can grow into a common purpose.
They were struggling to make ends meet, so he turned to his past for a way out. She was all in, ready to face it together.
But what happens when that purpose blinds us to the difference between right and wrong?
She got in way too deep, but little did she know that what she was doing for her man was about to change the entire trajectory of her life.
December 2nd, 2016, Orlando, Florida. It's early morning in the city known as O-Town.
When people think of Orlando, they think about going to Disney World, they think about all the fun, just a real mecca for children, actually. It's like a dream, a fairy tale for people when they think about going to Orlando.
Orlando, Florida receives thousands and thousands of visitors every year. And typically people think of it as a very well tended to, well taken care of, fairly affluent area of the state. However, there is a portion of Orlando known as Pine Hill. which is in stark contrast to what we typically think of when we think of Orlando, Florida.
The Pine Hills neighborhood is hardly a magic kingdom.
Pine Hills, they call it Crime Hills because of so much crime.
There's a lot of issues over there. There's a lot of poverty, particularly in that area, and where you have poverty and the socioeconomic issues there, it leads to crime because a lot of the people that live there feel that they're trapped in some way. They can't advance to where they want to advance, so they resort to crime.
At 5 a.m., Barbara Webster is starting her morning work routine with a coworker at the Fresenius Medical Care Dialysis Center.
It was a beautiful day. We came in at 5 o'clock. By 6 o'clock, we were putting patients on the machine.
Suddenly, a coworker comes racing into the building in a panic. She's screaming that their colleague, Gregory Whitbeck, has just been shot.
Greg stumbled into the building. And when I saw him, I said, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And he just stumbled and did not know what was going on.
Barbara notices that Greg's leg is bleeding, but it's obvious to her that something else is wrong.
He just started trying to reach out for me, and so I opened up his shirt and then turned him around and saw the bullets in his back.
Greg loses consciousness, and Barbara lets her medical training take over.
And I started doing CPR right then and then. My thoughts was just, please, God, let him make it through. Please, just let him make it through.
Minutes later, EMTs arrive.
The first responders were able to get there pretty fast. Unfortunately, the injuries were too great, and Greg Whitbeck died at his beloved place of work, surrounded by his close friends and colleagues.
For Barbara, one of Greg's closest friends, the news is devastating.
I could not hold it, just screamed. They had to take me out of the clinic and take me in the back. It was like a dream. I mean, we lost somebody we cared about, loved so bad. Somebody that was the only man in there that we thought would protect us. And he was gone.
Gregory Whitbeck was born on January 21, 1961, at Loring Air Force Base in Maine.
His father was in the Air Force. His mother, Evelyn, was a homemaker, and she took care of their 5 children that they had together. Greg was the only son, had 4 other sisters.
Of course, coming from a military parent, there was discipline, lots of it. However, though, there was no shortage of love. His sisters and him, they all knew that their father deeply loved them, and they had a nurturing and caring mother to take care of them.
As a military family, they moved from state to state and eventually reached the other end of the country.
By the time he entered middle school, he had moved to Washington State, and he attended Tacoma Junior Academy. When he went to high school, he attended Auburn Adventist Academy.
He moved up to the state of Washington and attended Walla Walla University for both his bachelor's and master's degree in social work.
After graduation, Greg and his father opened an assisted living facility in Washington State, which they ran for close to 20 years.
He honed his skills. He had a fantastic bedside manner. The patients loved him. His employees loved him. He was devoted, he was dedicated, and he really had a heart to serve his community.
When his dad retired, Greg decided to strike out on his own, moving to a sunnier climate.
He moved cross country all the way to Orange County, Florida, where he started his first job at a Head Start program.
Once again, serving the community, serving the children of that community, helping them to, gain better literacy skills, gain better educational resources, and just really serving the children of that underserved community.
A woman named Josette Zephyr came to his office. Greg was struck by her beauty and charm.
He was playing Kenny G music in the background, and she came in and asked him a couple of questions about some programs that were due to start later on that day, and from there they sparked up a conversation.
They start talking, and then the chemistry is there.
Greg told Josette he had a daughter named Crystal from a previous relationship. Any concern that she might be turned off by this quickly vanished.
That can be a little bit tricky because that might push a love interest away. You know, if they're not prepared to step into that role, if they're not prepared to take on a child as their own, that can be a little off-putting. But Josette was totally open to it.
In fact, it seemed to captivate her even more. Just the fact that he was a family man and he had honor and integrity.
Greg and Josette soon found themselves embarking on a whirlwind romance.
They had a great relationship starting out. They were best friends. They talked about everything. They were excited to see that love blossom. On September 20th, 2008, Greg and Josette made it official and became husband and wife. About a year later, Greg also transitioned into a new role at a kidney dialysis facility in Orlando. He really helps those people in the community that are facing kidney issues and having to undergo dialysis. So he tends to their physical care, their mental health. He helps them socially to get everything that they need in order to receive the care that they deserve.
Greg spent 13 years at the center. During that time, he and his co-workers grew extremely close.
It was more than just friends. We were a family in this clinic. He cared about people.
But now, Greg is dead after a shooting in the parking lot of the dialysis center where he worked. Homicide detectives arrive at the scene and begin questioning Barbara and the other employees.
The first question detectives asked is, why was Greg outside in the parking lot?
When Greg came in, I was in the back getting ready to go on break, and Greg said that he was going to go back outside to drop some papers off to somebody, another social worker.
Crime scene analysts search the parking lot and find one .32 caliber shell casing.
At first glance, the details didn't quite add up. Greg has appeared to be shot twice, once in the leg and once in the back, but only one shell casing was found. Since it happened in the parking lot, it's possible the second shell casing rolled away or either got caught in the suspect's clothing.
They make note of the caliber of the gun because that's going to become relevant in ascertaining the murder weapon.
Police then canvass the area, looking for anyone who might have witnessed the shooting.
They, of course, interview the person who called 911, and that was Kristen Ayers, the employee at the Dunkin' Donuts in the same strip plaza. And she described for them what she saw exactly. She noticed that Greg Whitbeck was outside in the parking lot, and a vehicle pulled up. And it was a silver grayish vehicle. And she noticed two people in the vehicle. She noticed a young man who looked young, probably in his mid to late 20s. And she also noticed a female who was behind the wheel of the vehicle.
She recalls that the young man quickly got out of the passenger side of the car and approached Greg.
They basically exchanged words. She did not hear the words, but it didn't seem friendly. And after that, she noticed that they were physically wrestling.
Kristen says that shortly after, she heard two gunshots ring out and then saw Greg doubled over.
He gripped his side and leaned over as though he had been injured.
He was kind of slumped over, hunched over, grabbing his side and stumbling, fumbling back into the medical facility.
Kristen tells detectives that the young man jumped back into the car and it sped off. She then raced to the phone and called 911.
Of course, it frightened her because they're in Pine Hills. She was scared, and she called the police.
She said the young black male who was the passenger looked to be about 5'10" with a slim build. And she also noticed that the driver was a black female.
She didn't really get a great description of the female as she was in the driver's side, but she did notice that there were two assailants in the vehicle.
Given that the shooting has taken place in a high-crime area, detectives have to wonder if the shooting may have been a robbery gone bad.
In fact, in the 2 months prior to Greg's murder, there had been 8 reported shootings in the Pine Hill neighborhood, with 5 people killed and 5 more injured.
The witness provides one other detail. She says that when the car fled, she noticed something unusual about the rear license plate.
She said the license plate looked like it was paper, which probably mean it was a temporary tag. And they usually mean that the car was either new or recently had been sold.
It's not much of a lead, but right now, it's the only lead that detectives have.
Community leader and beloved social worker Greg Whitbeck is tragically shot in the parking lot of the medical clinic where he worked. The Pine Hills community in Orlando is known to be a rough and tumble neighborhood with more than its share of random violence.
The detectives had to take into account the area that they were in. There had already been previous shootings, other crimes that had already taken place, so they weren't sure if this was just some random robbery gone wrong or what.
But when detectives check Greg's clothing, they find his wallet. Nothing appears to have been stolen.
On the surface, that might suggest that it wasn't a robbery gone bad. But the witness at Dunkin' Donuts said she saw Greg and the man tussling. So that might mean that Greg refused to give the man his wallet, and that's why he was shot.
Police begin the difficult task of notifying Greg's family of his death. His wife, Josette, is stunned by the news.
She was devastated, she was distraught, she broke out into tears. She reacted in a way that was you'd expect for someone who lost a husband.
They asked if Greg was having problems with anyone. Did he have any enemies or anyone that might want to do him harm? She said everyone loved Greg.
She told them she had no idea who would want to harm her husband.
They also asked Josette about her relationship with Greg.
Do they have a happy marriage? Has there been any marital conflict in recent history? And Josette says everything is great. They have a loving relationship. Nothing is wrong.
Detectives then visit with Greg's mother and sisters. Most are shocked by Greg's passing, but one sister, Diane, is not.
Diane has quite a bit to say about her sister-in-law, Josette, where Josette made it seem like her, Greg, and their daughter, Crystal, were one big happy family. Diane had an entirely different story to tell.
Diane says that while the marriage may have begun as a fairy tale, it eventually turned into a nightmare for Greg.
Diane says that Josette and Greg were anything but happy. In the later years, they had a lot of issues. Josette had become very confrontational, often being very insecure and accusing Greg of possibly cheating on her or disrespecting their marriage. Things were very argumentative and just contemptuous between the two of them.
As we know, many times sisters can be so overprotective of their brothers. She had a lot to say when it came to law enforcement. She told them his wife was verbally abusive. The relationship had turned totally toxic. He didn't feel as though there was anything that could salvage their relationship.
Diane tells detectives that Greg had an epiphany the night before he was murdered.
Greg had come to their mother's house and had dinner with her and her mother. And Greg told his mother that he has planned on leaving Josette and he's finally done with her for good.
He told his mother, if anything happens to me, look to Josette.
Diane then tells detectives that when Greg began complaining about Josette several months earlier, she decided to do a little sleuthing.
Diane has done her own independent investigation on her sister-in-law, and she has found some shocking evidence. She's found that Josette has been married 6 times before, which is just shocking to her.
In addition to that, she used multiple aliases. She had fake birth certificates and a whole bunch of other things that would just make anyone think, what's really going on here? Why all the aliases? Why all the marriages?
She's not even sure if Josette is her real name.
Detectives ponder this new information. Why would Josette murder Greg? Why not simply divorce him? Diane thinks she has the answer.
Greg had a sizable 401k. Was it possible that she could have done a murder to get that money? Detectives always know that money is a very powerful motive.
Detectives return to the dialysis center to ask Greg's co-workers about the accusations. Barbara Weston confirms that Josette was extremely jealous.
Greg could not have friends at work. He did everything he could, to make her sure that, these are just co-workers, these are family, these are just friends.
Co-workers say Josette would even surprise Greg at his office, hoping to catch him with another woman.
His wife had shown up to the facility several times with some bizarre behavior, causing a scene, being very aggressive.
She would just come and just show up and just, it was a place of work. And he was well respected by his patients and his friends. And to show up and argue, and that was not Greg.
Any person that goes to, your spouse's job to wreak havoc and say all these crazy, outlandish things, that speaks a lot.
According to co-workers, Josette's behavior forced the office to take extreme measures.
We had to block her. The boss actually had to block her from coming to the clinic.
Josette's bizarre behavior and apparent threats have made her the #1 suspect in Greg's murder.
The eyewitness said Greg was shot by a man, but she also said that a woman was driving the silver sedan.
December 4th, 2016. The family and friends of 55-year-old social worker Greg Whitbeck have told Orlando, Florida police detectives that they suspect his estranged wife, Josette, may have been involved in his murder.
They know she can't be the shooter because witnesses say it was a man. But a woman was driving the getaway car, and that could have been Josette.
Detectives obtain a photograph of Josette and return to the Dunkin' Donuts and their main eyewitness, Kristen Ayers.
They ask Kristen if Josette looks familiar. Was this the getaway driver of the vehicle that you saw the morning of Greg's murder? And Kristen cannot confirm or deny. It was quite a bit of a distance away. It was from an angle that she was watching all of this happen. And again, she was in the middle of work, kind of back and forth, dealing with customers and watching the scenario unfold.
Kristen describes the vehicle as a silver sedan. Motor vehicle records show that Josette doesn't own such a vehicle.
That doesn't clear her. The vehicle might have belonged to the man that did the shooting, or it may have been borrowed or rented. There is no way to tell at this point.
Detectives look further into Josette's whereabouts the day of the murder, and they don't really find anything that would raise any alarm bells for them. They did not find any cell tower pings, coming from her cell phone number at the time of the murder. So they're led to believe that if Josette is involved, it would be more of a murder for hire plot versus Josette physically being involved in what occurred that day.
Detectives return to Josette's house for a second interview, but she sticks to her story.
They asked her, is there any problems in the relationship? Is there anything we should be aware of? She told them they had a great relationship and that there was nothing going on, and she had no idea who would want to harm her husband.
They even asked Greg's daughter, Crystal, if she noticed anything unusual around the house. But she was in the dark as to what was going on between her dad and Josette.
She didn't have any information because her dad had worked very hard to shelter her from knowing his marital problems. He believed that grown people needed to handle their business and keep kids out of it and protect his daughters, what he did. So Crystal was none the wiser. She had no idea that her father and stepmother weren't getting along or that their marriage was in shambles.
Detectives appear to hit a dead end. But back at the station, as they comb through police reports, they uncover unusual activity in the Pine Hills neighborhood on the morning of Greg's murder.
In the 90 minutes or so preceding the shooting at the dialysis center, 2 armed robberies took place, both of them involving a silver sedan.
The first robbery involved a young man named Houston Willis.
He was on his bicycle heading into work, and he describes that a car, a silver grayish vehicle, pulled up in front of the path of his bicycle and stopped him from moving any further. Houston describes that the young man jumps out of the passenger side of the vehicle and holds him at gunpoint. Then he yells at his driver to get out of the vehicle and grab his backpack. And then they both jump in the car and speed off.
The brazen robbery nets the bandits very little money.
Houston says that the only thing he had in his backpack at the time was his cell phone and his wallet containing just $3. But he was traumatized nonetheless.
He gave the detectives a general description of the two robbers, who seemed to match the couple that killed Greg Whitbeck. It all happened so fast that he wasn't really able to study their faces or give any real details.
Houston's description of the vehicle matches that seen by the Dunkin' Donuts employee when Greg Whitbeck was shot. About an hour later, a woman named Carla Mitchell comes to the station to share her story of a similar encounter at an Orlando daycare center.
Detectives interview Carla Mitchell, who was getting her 3-month-old child out of the car in the parking lot of the daycare facility where her child attended.
She says the male passenger, which she describes as a young black man, points a gun in her face and orders her to give him her valuables.
She has a headset that's valued at about $150, a cell phone, and her wallet containing $140 cash.
She says the man jumped back into the vehicle and drove off.
Again, everything happened so fast that she can't give a detailed description of the robbers. Black male, medium height, and build. But it's the same general description as the other witnesses. And she also says they are driving a small silver sedan.
This time, there's another witness, a security guard who is stationed across the street.
He saw what was going on, and he was able to see the tags on the vehicle, and he noted that they were temporary tags.
This vehicle with the temporary license plate is the very same vehicle and description of the vehicle that pulled into the parking lot and killed Greg Whitbeck. This vehicle with the temporary license plate was the break in the case that the police needed.
3 days after the fatal shooting of Greg Whitbeck in the parking lot of an Orlando dialysis center, investigators have uncovered their first major break in the case. The silver sedan seen fleeing the scene the day of the murder matches the description of a vehicle seen at 2 other robberies.
The robbery of the bicyclist happened first, about 90 minutes before Greg's shooting. And the robbery at the daycare was just 15 minutes before Greg was shot. So they all happened about the same time and in the same general area.
The description of the robbers are the same. The description of the vehicles are the same. So there is little doubt that these robbers are connected, committed by the same 2 people.
Detectives run the tag through motor vehicle records and learn it is registered to a 24-year-old woman named April Koger. April Koger was born in 1992 in Orlando, Florida. She gave birth to her first child while still in high school. A second child came 3 years later. April quickly found herself struggling to provide for her family.
The father of her children didn't even want to have anything to do with his own children. He was not in their lives. He wasn't providing any kind of financial, emotional, or physical support for the children.
April really had no means to provide for her children, so she ended up moving in with her mother.
But April saw a ray of hope when 23-year-old Kenny Cheney walked into her life.
April says that she was kind of swept off her feet by Kenny. He kind of came in and just wanted to be the man for her, wanted to wine and dine her and really take care of her.
He was a lifeline. He came to her rescue. He was a good father figure for her children. He seemed to be family-oriented and seemed to be exactly what she wanted and needed.
But as time went on, their financial troubles grew. Kenny, who had a criminal record, couldn't seem to find steady work anywhere.
Given his criminal background, as you can imagine, it was hard for him to find employment that would really provide for himself and April and the 2 children. It just became a challenge to make ends meet for the both of them.
Kenny, who wanted to provide for his newfound family, became stressed. And April did her best to encourage him, telling him to stay positive, hoping their luck would change.
With the license plate to April's car matching the silver sedan seen at the robbery scenes, detectives go to April's home. But neither April nor her car are present. They decide to use a different tactic.
They're also able to determine that the vehicle was recently purchased from a local establishment called Sam's Auto Sales. They also go down to Sam's and they are able to speak with the salesperson who sold the vehicle. He says that their facility is a buy here, pay here lot, which enables people to purchase the vehicles and pay the bill over time.
The salesman also tells detectives that April's car, like most of the cars they sell, is equipped with a GPS tracking device.
All the buy here, pay here that I know of, they have GPS tracking devices because a lot of times those buy here, pay here car dealerships, the cars end up getting repoed because they can't afford the payments.
When people get behind on their cars, they disable the cars and then they're able to track where it is and go pick it up to repossess it.
The salesman provides all of the tracking data from April's car. It's an aha moment for detectives.
They are able to determine that the silver gray vehicle that was sold at that facility was actually present at each of the locations of all 3 robberies at the time that the robberies occurred.
The salesman has something else for detectives.
The GPS tracker is not only able to track previous locations, but is able to track the current location. That is exactly what law enforcement needed.
And they find out where the car was, which was not too far from the house.
Detectives send officers to the location of the vehicle, warning them that the occupants are likely armed and dangerous.
When they get there, what will they discover? Will it be a peaceful surrender, or will it be a shootout?
With the help of a car salesman and GPS tracking data, investigators have identified the vehicle used in the murder of Greg Whitbeck. Now, Orlando police officers are heading to the location of the car and its likely driver, 24-year-old April Koger.
Detectives know that the robberies and the murder was committed by a man and a woman, and that it was the man that was armed with the handgun. Will this man be with her? Are they now outright committing more robberies? Nobody knows.
Police spot the silver sedan in a residential neighborhood. There's only one occupant in the car, a woman.
She identifies herself as April Koger. They explain to her that she has a warrant out for her arrest, and she peacefully surrenders.
They are most concerned about also apprehending her accomplice, the male accomplice in these crimes. April tells detectives that her accomplice is 23-year-old Kenny Cheney, her boyfriend, and he is staying with her at her home on Imogene Court.
The officers run a background check on Kenny Cheney. They learn he is no stranger to law enforcement.
Kenny has a very long rap sheet. He has committed several crimes over the years, and he's currently on probation for armed robbery. Armed with all of this information, the police are able to obtain a warrant for Kenny Cheney's arrest.
The police go to April's home and Kenny opens up the door. He peacefully surrenders.
Armed with a warrant, investigators search the home for evidence of the crimes.
They find a .32 caliber pistol, which is the same caliber that was used in the murder of Greg Whitbeck. They also find 2 cell phones and a purse belonging to Carla Mitchell. They also find the backpack that belonged to Houston Willis that was stolen from him in the armed robbery that he described.
Detectives are confident that April Koger and Kenny Cheney are the 2 people responsible for the string of robberies and Greg Whitbeck's murder, but they want to hear it from them.
Detectives are able to sit down with April for an interview, and they notice that she is super nervous. And April admits that she's never been in trouble with the law before. She's feeling very unsettled, and because of that, she agrees to be very forthcoming, very transparent.
April tells detectives about how she met and then fell for Kenny. He was everything her children's father wasn't, and tried to take care of her and her kids.
She had someone who was there and who actually was present and concerned and wanted to be an active part of her life.
But his criminal record made it hard for him to get and keep a job. And Kenny noticed that he was disappointing April by not being able to provide for her.
April tells detectives that as the holidays approached, Kenny decided to take action.
Christmas was right around the corner and he wanted to provide gifts for the kids and April, and he came up with this plan to make money fast. He told April that he wanted to take the little money that they had and buy a vehicle and go out and find easy victims to rob.
April says she simply trusted Kenny and agreed to go along with the plan.
She had no criminal history. She had not been involved in anything like this before. So to her, naively, if you will, it seemed like this was a good option.
She says Kenny wanted to commit the robberies early in the morning when there would be few witnesses. Minutes before 5 a.m., they spotted Houston Willis on his bike.
He looked like an easy target. It was just him by himself, not really any witnesses around.
He put the gun to him, and he only got $3 from it in a phone. So that wasn't a good lick.
Their next target is a woman carrying a baby. But again, their haul is less than expected.
Carla only had about $140 in cash in her purse and some electronics worth about $150. But that was really still not enough for them to do anything with. So they continued looking for their next victim. And they happened to pull up by the shopping center where they noticed Greg Whitbeck standing outside in his white lab coat.
He thought 3 times would be a charm. I know this man, he has a coat, he's a doctor, he has money. This is our lick right here.
What they didn't anticipate was that Greg was a fighter. So he actually, wrestled with Kenny in that parking lot. And unfortunately, Kenny either inadvertently or intentionally pulled the trigger and shot Greg twice in order to get his money.
April says she never anticipated someone would be shot. Kenny jumped back into the car and ordered her to flee.
In his haste to get away, Kenny didn't even take Greg's wallet. In other words, he killed him for nothing.
All the evidence seems to be pointing toward an armed robbery gone wrong. But detectives still have questions about Greg's wife, Josette.
Was this just 2 individuals trying to make money to feed their children? Or did Josette hire these 2 individuals to commit a murder and make it seem like an armed robbery gone wrong?
Orlando detectives have compelling evidence that April Koger and her boyfriend, Kenny Cheney, are responsible for a series of armed robberies and the murder of Greg Whitbeck.
April Koger freely admitted her role in the crimes to detectives. And when police bring in Kenny Cheney for an interview, he does the same.
Kenny confessed to shooting Greg in the parking lot in front of the dialysis center. April confessed to being the driver and being an accomplice in all of the robberies.
Both are charged with murder, second-degree murder, armed robbery, and attempted armed robbery. When detectives inform Greg's family that his killers have been caught, they are less than satisfied.
They're not convinced that it was just some random robbery gone wrong. What they really want to know is, did Greg's wife have anything to do with this?
Investigators re-interview Kenny and show him a photo of Greg's wife, Josette.
They ask Kenny if he's able to identify the woman in the picture, and Kenny makes it clear that he has never seen this woman before in his life. She is a complete stranger, totally foreign to him, and he seems very sincere.
Detectives even went so far to look through Josette's bank records to see if there was any evidence that she paid someone to kill Greg. And there was nothing, so they were able to finally rule her out.
April's trial is scheduled to begin in February 2018. As the date approaches, prosecutors present her with a deal. April accepts.
Given the charges against April, it could have been a potential life sentence, but the DA offered April 17 years in prison in exchange for her testimony against Kenny as the planner of the crime and the gunman in the crime.
Kenny Cheney eventually pleads guilty to all the charges and is sentenced to life in prison. The convictions are little solace to the family and friends of Greg Whitbeck.
In one sense, it was comfort that they got caught, but at the same time, we were still angry about it. Just angry because it didn't have to be that way.
By the time April Koger is released from prison, her 2 children will be adults, and she will have missed most of their childhood years.
The crimes that she committed for her man, in the name of love, they were blinding to her. It skewed her judgment. She didn't make the right decisions. And now she has to live with that guilt for the rest of her life, away from her children.
And she said that she was just following the lead of her man because they were on hard times. She could have said no, but he assured her, and she trusted him. This should be a big lesson to young women in any kind of situation like this.
Young women feel that they need a man that's out there being tough and bad and just robbing and they like that fast life. It's not about the fast life. You don't need that kind of life because like April, look where she ended up.
She grew up to be, a child of love that would just light up any room that she walked into. As long as I'm living, I'm gonna keep her name alive.
It's bad enough to where you don't even want to think about it. You could tell that her hands have been bound behind her back with tape. Her feet have been bound.
Payback to me is this notion of hurt me and I'll hurt you back worse. The perpetrator really isn't thinking about the other person. They're really thinking about themselves.
This was a guy who was a predator. This was a guy who could not take no for an answer.
He was not returning his advances. He has to find a way to try and relieve some of that distress. And so for him, that took a pretty sinister, dark turn.
On September 24th, 2021, sheriffs in Orange County, Florida, get a call from a worried mother. She says her daughter, 19-year-old college student Mia Marcano, is missing.
Mia was scheduled to fly home to Fort Lauderdale to see family for the weekend. The last her family had heard from her, Mia was getting off of work and headed home to pack the rest of her things and wait for the Uber to head to the airport.
Mia's plane left Orlando at 8:50 p.m., but when it landed in Fort Lauderdale, she wasn't on it.
My son texted me, and he said that, Dad, we can't find Mia. I said, what do you mean you can't find Mia? And he told me that, he's been calling her and everybody's been calling her and her phone is just going to voicemail.
A young 19-year-old not ever far from her phone, right? It's unusual that she's not answering, so family are now frantic, wondering where is she?
I sent her a text message through WhatsApp. And on WhatsApp, you can see if a message was delivered or, if it was read or anything like that. And the message that I sent was not going through. So I automatically knew that something was wrong.
Mia Marcano was born on April 26, 2002. She was the second child of South Florida DJ Marlon Marcano and his wife, Ema Scarbriel.
Holding my baby girl for the first time was one of the greatest feelings ever in life. I mean, the bond from day one was just unbreakable. She grew up in the city of Pembroke Pines. That's where she did her elementary, middle school. After her mom and I got divorced, her mom moved back to the Virgin Islands. And, certain summers, the kids will go down there, spend a few months. Mia did a couple semesters of schooling over there. But then she came back here to Florida and she finished up high school.
Mia loved many things. She liked to model, dance, cheerlead. She enjoyed music, hip hop, soca, calypso, which made sense because her dad was a really well-known DJ. And so music was an integral part of her life.
She grew up to be, a child of love that would just light up any room that she walked into.
But like many students her age, Mia's high school experience was disrupted by COVID-19.
When we were in the heart of COVID. So for Mia's senior year, she missed out on prom, she missed out on the senior trip, and she missed out on graduation. So after all that hard work, you don't even get to walk and celebrate. At the end was, it played a toll on her.
Mia hoped college would be different. But the pandemic continued through her freshman year.
She had an apartment and she shared it with 3 other roommates at that time. And it was a whole semester went by and she didn't even see the campus of school. Everything was done online.
When the campus reopened in the fall of 2021, September 2021, Mia had settled into her new routine and was looking forward to the new school year. But now Mia has suddenly vanished, and her family is afraid something has happened to her.
Her mom, who is Ema, and she's in the Virgin Islands, she actually calls the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and she requests what we call a welfare check because she hasn't heard from her daughter.
At 10:07 p.m., an Orange County Sheriff's deputy arrives at Mia's apartment in Orlando. The family had already called Mia's roommate to meet the deputy there.
Her mother, Ema, tells the deputy, please stand by because her roommate is leaving work, coming by the apartment, and she'll get you inside. The roommate shows up. They actually go inside the apartment, but when they get to her room, the door's locked.
Mia's roommate says that's not unusual. She always locks her door when she goes home for holidays. Luckily, Mia's bedroom has a window they can get to from the back of the apartment.
They were able to look inside the window, and the police officer said that it looked like a normal teen's room.
However, something seems out of place.
The deputy notices that the window for her bedroom, which is not locked, and he can actually push it open into the room. The roommate acknowledged that that was extremely unusual because her father, when she moved in, had put locks on all the windows, and these aren't just normal locks, they're very difficult to remove.
I just wanted the lock so that the window would not be able to go up past a certain height. So she can open the window, she wanted fresh air, but nobody could stick their head through the window.
Those locks are now broken.
The roommate's talking with family members, and so they suggest that she enters the room through the window. The roommate checks with the deputy, gets his authorization to do so, because at this point, we really don't have a crime that's being investigated. It's simply a welfare check on someone. So the roommate crawls through the window with the assistance from the deputy.
When Mia's roommate gets inside, she makes another discovery.
She told us on the phone that what she saw, which was the bookshelf that she had in her room jammed up against the bedroom door. So automatically that told me that if her door is jammed, there's no way that she left through that door. She had to leave through the window.
The question is why. After moving the bookcase, Mia's roommate helps the deputy search the room for more clues.
The bed's, not made up, but they don't really notice anything initially out of the ordinary, but eventually they do find clothes that are in a backpack, and it appeared to be the clothes that she was going to take with her to the plane, so they were there. And also the teddy bear that she normally doesn't leave without if she goes anywhere.
That was something that was very important to Mia. They knew that something was not right when they saw the teddy bear.
The deputy files a missing person report. adding Mia's name to the national database. But for now, they cannot start a formal investigation.
We don't really have enough information, at least in my opinion, as a former law enforcement officer, to establish that a crime has been committed, although there are some red flags, associated with this.
Mia's loved ones don't agree, so they decide to take matters into their own hands.
Family members know another family member. They know the signs.
And it was like, we need to activate now. We just jumped in the car and took off to Orlando.
The family of missing 19-year-old Mia Marcano is worried about her disappearance. So they make a late-night drive from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando, Florida, to conduct their own investigation.
We got to Orlando roughly, I would say 2:45, 3 a.m. in the morning. I didn't have a key to her apartment, but I was in contact with her roommates, and as soon as I got there, I called her, and she came and opened the apartment for me. We went into the apartment with gloves on because we knew not to touch anything.
When they went into Mia's room to look around, they knew immediately that something was not right because Mia was an extremely neat person. It didn't matter where Mia was going, the time of the day. When she left, her bed was always made. Her room was always neat.
We noticed, her jewelry was broken on the floor. Her bed was shifted.
The type of jewelry that it was very difficult to break. It was not something that would just fall on the floor and break. They knew that it must have been some type of struggle. They also saw a box cutter. That was another sign. They knew Mia did not own a box cutter.
That was not hers. Mia that would not be her weapon of choice.
The family spots something else the police officer missed during the welfare check. A blood stain on Mia's pillow.
The blood was in plain eyesight, but we couldn't determine if it was fresh or how long it was there.
They're becoming convinced that someone has abducted Mia. But she doesn't have any enemies they know about.
We were talking and, we're trying to find out, who does she have any problems with? Has she been complaining about anything or anybody? And her roommate mentioned that the only person that she can think about was this guy named Armando.
The man Mia's roommate is referring to is Armando Caballero, a 27-year-old maintenance worker at the apartment complex.
With her bubbly personality, Mia had no difficulty making friends at work, and she caught the eye of one of her coworkers, Armando Caballero. Initially, Mia and Armando exchanged text messages. They were friendly, but over time, Armando became a little more insistent than Mia would have liked.
Mia's roommate shows them copies of the texts Mia had forwarded to her. And some of them are quite alarming.
There was a time when some of the text messages that he was sending her got a little too personal, maybe even a little offensive to her. One very inappropriate text that he sent her that had sexual overtones in it that seemed to really upset her.
The roommate says Mia politely turned Armando down, but that didn't seem to stop him.
There were some instances of him attempting to send her money that she didn't ask for and did not want.
She would reject the money and send it back to him, and he would in turn send it back to her. His whole rationale that he told her for doing that is that he had saved that money, and I believe it was about $600 to take her out and wine and dine her with. But when she was resistant to his advances, he said, go ahead and use it for whatever you need to use it for. There's some guys that just simply, they're infatuated. They don't want to take no for an answer. And they'll do whatever is in their wheelhouse or what's available to them or what's worked before.
After that, Mia made it clear she wanted Armando to leave her alone. But now her loved ones can't help but wonder if he's the reason she's disappeared.
There's a concept in psychology called rejection sensitivity, right? To where people who experience rejection aren't able to have a typical threshold for accepting what that means. This could be the case with Armando as well, where his rejection sensitivity is really low, and so he's not able to interpret the social cues that he's getting from Mia in an appropriate way. He cannot get over the thought that he is being rejected by this person who he has claimed to be in love with. Once it got to the point where she indicated to him that she was no longer interested in his advances, and we see that he was not taking no for an answer, that is where we get to the point where something more sinister is at play.
Mia Marcano has been missing for less than 24 hours. But the more her family learns, the more they think she's been abducted. So around 4 a.m., they ask police to look at the new evidence they found in Mia's apartment.
We called them back because when we got there, I mean, everything was plain as day that my daughter's in trouble.
We have an Orange County Sheriff's deputy there, and we have a ton of family members there, including her father. So, father points out to the deputy that the bed frame has been moved. It's not sitting where the impressions are on the carpet. There's a yellow box cutter. The deputy looks at it. There does not appear to be any traces of blood on it. There's a pillowcase on the bed with a drop of blood, but it doesn't look fresh.
To the deputy, it seems less like evidence of foul play than of a family desperate to find answers.
At this point, we really don't know what's happened to her. We just don't know if she's been abducted or maybe she's doing something of her own free will. There's just a lot of possibility at this point in time. I can tell you that in missing persons investigations, there is no shortage of individuals that want to get involved, normally for the right reasons. It shows that they love and they care, which I think is great. But it can reach the point where it can become distracting.
They're trying to tell me that, well, no, your daughter's not in trouble. It's a party weekend. She's probably out with her friends. And I mean, I know my daughter. If my daughter wants to go party with her friends, she doesn't have to sneak out her window.
The deputy tells Mia's father he'll add the information to her case file. But there's nothing more he can do for now. Before he leaves, however, a security guard arrives to tell them about a suspicious vehicle in the parking lot.
We automatically just, went outside. And I seen him sitting down in the car. He asked if we were looking for Mia. And my sister asked, well, who are you? And he said his name is Armando.
It's the maintenance worker Mia's roommate told them about, Armando Caballero. But why is he lurking outside Mia's apartment in the middle of the night?
Deputy asked him why he's there. Now, at this time, Armando's talking on the phone to somebody the whole time the deputy's trying to interact with him.
He said he was talking to his coworker, and she told him that Mia was missing. And he was concerned, so he decided to come by and check, because he was an on-call maintenance guy that night.
It seems a reasonable explanation at first, but when the family confronts him, he gets defensive.
As of right now, you have sent obsessive texts to Mia. We have all seen the texts. You talked about giving her your life savings. You cash out her money, and you claim that you weren't in touch. It's on text.
I never
As a
said
matter of
that.
fact, we're gonna get a police report to pull your phone records if that's the case.
What you have to do?
There's evidence of obsession, of something. You're fascinated with
It's
Mia.
not only from my side, so don't try to make this.
No
like I'm a
one's
stalker.
saying that. It takes
She's
two.
not here to defend
There's-
herself right now,
obviously,
so we
she's
gotta talk to
missing. So we're talking to
And
you,
I
who've been going
completely
back and
respect
forth
that. I
on
understand
text.
that. That is your family. But until we figure out what's going on, just don't beat me up.
To defuse the situation, the deputy separates the parties and talks to Armando alone. Armando admits he wanted to date Mia, but says he backed off when she turned him down.
How would you describe your relationship with her?
It was somewhat flirtatious at first, but then honestly, it was just on some friendship.
Okay.
According to Armando, they were still friends. The last time he saw her was at work around 3 p.m.
The whole time the deputy is talking to Armando, he's on the phone talking to somebody. So eventually, Armando puts the phone on speaker mode so that the deputy can talk to the individual. And the female ended up confirming this to the deputy while she was on speakerphone. And the female actually worked in the same office as her supervisor, actually, and they were friends as well.
Despite the family's suspicions, it seems Armando might be telling the truth. After all, if he had harmed Mia, why would he come back to offer help? But before the night is over, the case takes another unexpected turn.
The security guard said that when he was walking around, he heard some noises in one of the storage units. So we asked if they can see in that Armando that he has access to it. Well, can he go open the unit so that we can make sure, that Mia's not in there?
The family of missing college student Mia Marcano have confronted the man they think is connected to her disappearance. 27-year-old maintenance man, Armando Caballero. Strange noises coming from one of the apartment storage units makes them wonder if he stashed her inside.
Armando and the security guard went to the storage unit and they came back and said it was cleared.
The family remains convinced Armando knows more than he's saying. But with no evidence to hold him, at 6:29 a.m., the deputy tells Armando he's free to go. Mia's father isn't happy about it.
The deputy took Armando's information, his name, his address, phone number, and told him to have a good night. I mean, if I'm driving and I get pulled over for a routine traffic stop, you'll search my vehicle, you'll take me out of the car, you do the whole nine, but my daughter's missing and a person of interest is right in front of you and you do nothing.
The deputy tells the family to contact the sheriff's office if they hear from Mia. But as far as her loved ones are concerned, the investigation into Armando Caballero is just getting started.
Next, the family kind of takes over the investigation for the cops.
I don't think anybody's going to ever put in the efforts and the attention that a family member will put in.
While some family members distribute flyers around town, others drive to nearby Castleberry to spy on Armando.
They were all ladies. They had already gotten Armando's address and everything from when he was there that night, so they decided to do their little investigation on their own and drove over to his complex. I didn't know that they were going because that's not something that the guys in the family would send the ladies out to go do by themselves.
Hoping to prove his involvement, the women record their observations.
Why haven't they gone into his apartment? Why didn't they search him?
Not long into their stakeout, they get exactly what they were hoping for.
They see Armando taking items out of his car and into his apartment. And one item of interest was a pink blanket.
The blanket.
Oh my God, that is my blanket.
My mother was the one who purchased that particular blanket for Mia.
They contact the police, but now all of a sudden they're no longer in the Orlando area, they're in Seminole County, and they have to call the Castleberry Police Department.
Before Castleberry police can get there, however, Armando leaves. The women had called other loved ones who decide to follow him themselves.
While I was on my way to his house, I saw him as he was leaving and I started to tail him. And he drove to another friend's house. And when they pulled into that friend's house, that's when we blocked them in and we came out the car and approached them again. and told him, the family was just there. We saw the blanket, everything. He told us that he didn't know what we were talking about. He was saying that he has nothing to do with Mia and he doesn't know where Mia is and, why we harassing him is basically what he's saying.
The family calls Castleberry PD. They respond.
They said that they couldn't go inside because they didn't have any warrants or anything like that. But if he's allowing someone to go inside, they're willing to go inside.
Armando says he has nothing to hide and surprises everyone by agreeing to let one of Mia's friends search his home instead.
The friend went inside, did a search, and the blanket was gone. In my mind, I already knew that we were not gonna find the blanket there because his roommate was already at the house. He already knew that by then we were on to him.
I tried everything to lose weight, and then I found this. Try our #1 doctor-recommended points program. Now with access to prescription weight loss medication, our members lose 21% of their body weight. This time, it just feels right.
The first 48 hours are the most important in any missing persons case. And Mia Marcano's family is determined to find her before it's too late. Unfortunately, their only suspect, Armando Caballero, is staying one step ahead of them.
At that point in time, I was just looking for the answer. And if he was the person that had her, I just wanted to find where Mia was. I felt like she was in danger.
What they need is solid evidence to convince police to take them seriously. So they ask Mia's property manager for security camera footage from the day she disappeared.
The only place that there were security cameras were primarily at the front office. There were no surveillance cameras throughout the apartment complex.
Fortunately, there are other ways to track employees' movements.
Everything in the apartment complex is pretty much controlled by key fobs.
The key fob contains chips with unique codes, which are recorded whenever they're used. And those records give Mia's loved ones a much clearer picture of what happened the day she disappeared.
When Mia gets off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, about 5:06, she ends up entering her apartment. But the door doesn't lock, the deadbolt doesn't lock on it until about 5:12. So there's about 6 minutes of a delay before that happens.
Stranger still, a different key fob gained access to her apartment half an hour earlier at 4:34 p.m. And that key fob belongs to the building's maintenance man, Armando Caballero.
Because Armando's a maintenance worker, he has access to key fobs. And on an emergency basis for like overnight calls and stuff, he has access to key fobs in the building that will get him pretty much anywhere he wants to go.
That allowed him access into every apartment. We were in disbelief to believe that a person would have unfettered access into a tenant's apartments.
Within the past week, he had to fix a leak that was in her apartment, but there's no current work order. He had no business being there.
There's no record of anyone opening the front door after 5 p.m. But that door isn't the only way in and out of the apartment.
Mia's window was located in her bedroom. That was like at the back of the complex. For someone like a maintenance employee who's there every single day, he knows the blind spots throughout this apartment complex. He knows where he can kidnap someone and go unnoticed.
Mia's family immediately takes this new evidence to Orange County Police. This time, authorities open an investigation and review all the evidence.
The detectives, in piecing everything together, were able to determine that Armando made it to her apartment. He called in a fake maintenance request. waited for her to come into the apartment when she got off of work, which she did. They believed that once she entered, that there was a fight and a struggle, which would explain some of the jewelry on the floor, some of it broken, the bed frame being displaced, that he bound her, the window that was open, that the lock had been taken off, that Dad had put on, faced a back area of the complex that wasn't frequented by people. So it would have been relatively easy for him to get her out of that window without people watching him do that.
It's enough for detectives to obtain an arrest warrant.
Both Armando and from her, they've even gotten to the point to where they've pulled GPS data for Armando's vehicle, trying to pinpoint maybe, where he went.
Orange County Police put out a statewide alert for Armando, and the search begins. Several hours later, police in nearby Seminole County respond to an emergency call at another apartment complex.
They tell the cops to come out because they found a body inside.
Is it Mia?
The cops show up, building's locked when it's normally unlocked. They gotta break the lock, get inside, and they have a male who has hung himself, and it ended up being Armando.
His cowardly decision feels like a final attack on Mia and those who love her.
It has just become so much harder for us to find Mia. That's all that was running through my mind. How are we gonna find Mia if the person's responsible for her disappearance is no longer here?
I'm just trying to, rationalize and think that maybe that's why he decided to take the easy way out and commit suicide, because he knew that we were onto him and there was nowhere to go. For me, I still had hopes that Mia was still alive.
We knew we had to move extremely fast because Mia was missing on September 24th. It's now September 27th. And we're like, how long could she go without water? How long could she go without food? We're calculating all of this, and we know that there is a sense of urgency, and we have to find Mia right now.
The search for Mia Marcano has been derailed after the prime suspect in her disappearance, Armando Caballero, killed himself. But Mia's loved ones aren't about to give up now. If she's still alive, she might not be for long.
After it was announced that Armando Caballero had committed suicide, our search for Mia intensified, and the family's search for Mia intensified. You did not hear anyone saying, we have to return to work in 2 or 3 days. What I heard was that we are not leaving Orlando, Florida until we find Mia. It doesn't matter how long it takes. This is our home, and we're gonna all be in this until we find Mia.
The family took it upon themselves to actually privately hire a canine to assist in trying to find her, because remember, we're frantically trying to find, where she is.
Search and Rescue Central Florida is a volunteer organization of canine handlers and canines. It's all about closure for us, and it's all about bringing closure for the families and certainly for law enforcement. But it's basically trying to find a needle in a haystack in many cases.
By October 2nd, Mia has been missing for a week. But her family holds out hope as searches continue.
Every morning I would call the detectives and try to get them to give me a briefing as to where they are in the investigation, did they find anything, any new leads. And that particular Saturday morning, I think I called and no one answered. But then when the detective called me back, he said, how soon can you get here? When I pulled up to the sheriff's office, they told me to drive around to the back. I come out the car, And the detective comes up to me and he says, we got to tell you that the search party is out there today and they found the body. And they think that the body that they found is that of my daughter. My knees buckled on me.
Detectives explain that earlier that morning, a search party combing the woods near an apartment complex where Armando used to work had made the heart-wrenching discovery.
You could tell that her hands had been bound behind her back with tape. Her feet had been bound. The tape was very similar, if not identical, to the tape that law enforcement found that Armando had in his possession and that he had access to through his work.
Some believe he killed her to pay her back for turning him down. As police dig further into Armando's background, they discover this wasn't the first time he sought revenge for being rejected.
Armando Caballero had actually had an incident with another tenant at an apartment complex that he allegedly worked at. He offered this young lady out on a date. And when she refused to go out on a date with him, he threw weights through her window. So this was a guy who was a predator. This was a guy who we believe that he was getting jobs at apartment complexes just so he would just have the opportunity to just prey on young women.
On October 13th, 2021, the Marcano family lays Mia to rest.
I think the notion of closure with something like this is really hard to try and articulate in words. I understand that there was a really beautiful service for Mia, and she was surrounded by family and friends who loved her. But with Armando dying by suicide and the many unanswered questions that are left, to me, the notion of closure really isn't possible at this point.
So you tried to have a service for a princess. And I'm hoping she's happy with what we did.
To preserve Mia's legacy and to protect other young women like her, the Marcanos lobby for a new state law to stop predators like Armando Caballero from abusing their positions, which is passed in August 2022.
Mia's law is set in place for tenant safety. That's the main issue. And to, again, prevent other families from having to go through what we went through.
Mia's law makes it a requirement that in order to enter a tenant's apartment, no longer do you have to give 12-hour notice, you have to give 24-hour notice. There's also has to be a background check, an extensive background check conducted on the employee before they are hired. Also, it was very important for the family to create a foundation. And what the foundation is about is to assist families of missing persons. Because this is something that you're not prepared to handle. So having someone who's been through it, giving you the advice, telling you the resources to look for has been very beneficial to many of the families.
Well, one of our last conversations that Mia and I had, she was saying to me that, she's going to be famous. She had her Instagram thing and then this new thing, TikTok. It's sad that she's not here to see the level of fame that she's gained, but as long as I'm living, I'm gonna